Next up, I think this might be a Perf Now first. Our first ever married couple doing a joint presentation. We have Erwin and Karlijn. They're both, they work together. They're at Rum Vision. Karlijn is the CEO, of course. So they work together, they live together, they care about INP together. So they're here to share with us some case studies on INP and how to improve it. So yeah, welcome to the stage and thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, hi everyone. We're very proud to be here today and to talk to all of you. And we are here to talk about INP. And you know what the fun thing is about INP? It measures interactivity. And we figured, after a day and a half of only listening to people, what about interacting with us? Won't that be fun? So we would actually like to ask you to join us in this talk.
You can join too.
Yeah, just do this one. Scan it. I mean, QR codes, they're back after COVID. Scan them and join us. And if you're not on internet, you can use the Wi-Fi pass Akamai 2024. And as Rum Vision, I can tell you, I should have bought that sponsor package. But I didn't, so yay Akamai.
We actually have some merch as well. Maybe Jordi can pick it up from the Albert Heijn tas.
Oh yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
So please join us, and I will wait a little bit for you to do so. And just to say, well, how awesome has this been for now? I mean, what incredible insights have we had? I've loved it. So please join us. I'm kind of waiting.
Apparently, 14 people are already questioning their presence here today.
Oh yeah, no, worse yet. 2 people are actually doubting their decisions to, partake.
All right. Well, nevertheless.
Because, well, guys, as we're waiting, hey, Erwin, stay away from me.
Oh, sorry. Responsiveness. It's all about responsiveness.
Yeah, no, sorry. As we're all here, welcome to field data versus lab data. You guys are my field. So if we're going to talk about core web vitals and stuff, we like to look at field data, which is the one that you're seeing on my right. And not to Lighthouse, if we have that field data available. And I'm guessing we are now at the majority. So I would like to ask you something. When we're talking about interaction with a page, what annoys you the most? You can give us a score. Do you hate the most that it has lag when filling in an online form? Do you hate the most that there's a menu that is slow to open? Or a delay after clicking and add to cart or FAQ? I would actually be quite interested to find out where this leads us.
Quite equal.
Yeah, really quite equal.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah. So actually, to me personally, I think that lag when filling in an online form is the most annoying. But the good news, guys, is no matter what frustrations you have here, INP will measure it, which is awesome. So who are we? Well, we figured we could introduce each other. So hey, meet Erwin Hofman. He's the co-founder and CTO of Rum Vision. He's a web performance consultant. He's a Google developer expert in web technologies. He's a trainer and public speaker on helping you get better performance on your website, mainly to e-commerce. And he's kind of famous on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Do you go to the next slide?
I will.
All right. Well, this is Karlijn Löwik, my wife as well, CEO. So yeah, she is my boss, in fact. Co-founder of Rum Vision, HOS, the Netherlands, board member, as well as Lady Magento. And obviously, she also yesterday announced that she is part of the, co-chair basically of the W3C community group. And she also talks at venues in New York, London, Nantes in France, and Amsterdam again. Yeah.
So the last time the 2 people were on stage.
This happened.
Yeah.
So let's hope it will be better today. And this was also, by the way, the talk that Mandy was referring to.
Yeah, yeah. So who are we? Who is Run Vision? Well, we are a real user monitoring solution, and we're actually built on the Web Vitals EAS. So if anyone was ever struggling with that, I understand. We are 3 years in, and we're still developing as we go. So we are based here in the Netherlands. Yay! Who is from the Netherlands as well? Give me a thumbs up.
Or a thumbs down.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we have been having the INP breakdown and LOAF since 2023, which gives us an awesome data set today to talk to you about INP. And our goal is to get real user insights to all stakeholders, whether they are SEO, developers, front-enders, business owners. We just want to improve performance.
All right. If you want to learn more about the Web Vitals library, by the way, Jeremy talked about it during Google I/O. You can find the video online as well. By the way, all links will be found afterwards and shared on the internet, so you can take pictures, but don't worry if you miss any slides. But he's talking about using the Web Vitals library to collect INP data as well as LOAF data, and that's what we have been doing as well.
Because you can't improve what you don't measure. So this I actually need you for.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about interactivity, well, all of us, this is a 2-day event. We had to book a hotel. And the interesting thing is that when you think of interactivity, especially when you used to think about first input delay, you only measured the first thing.
Yeah, this one is failing us, so I'm going to try again. Typical example of INP, maybe?
Yeah. So what do? Well, you do many interactions. You choose where to go. We went to Amsterdam. Then you need to add the dates. What date do you want? In what date range? Now I'm done. That's an interaction too. How many rooms do I need? How many adults will I take? I mean, I had to take my whole team, so we're present here. Actually, we left the child behind, but I didn't know that when I made this. All these things are interactions, and they are all measured in interactivity delay. So this is why Fit got kicked out, because INP is better, because every single one of those interactions gets measured in INP, and it will report the slowest one. So on March 12, 2024, it was a memorable day for all of us in the web performance community, because we got rid of Fit. Actually, I believe Rick Viscomi made a song, and you should ask him about it, because it was amazing.
Using AI, I think?
Of course. Yeah. So on September 9th, 2024, Fit got completely kicked out of everything, and we no longer have to talk about it, so this is actually our farewell to Fit. Bye-bye. Because, well, this was actually referenced yesterday, the front-end sadness index told us that actually INP and interaction got much sadder, but it wasn't. The sadness was always there.
We just have a better metric.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing to back up that hotel booking that we did. More than 25% of INPs actually happen after 20 seconds in the page, or even more interesting, 50% happen after 10. This means that if you're going to improve interactivity, you would want to measure all of those interactions. And we actually got this out of our own data set. We made it for the Perf Planet, which is happening again this year. So if you have any great ideas, reach out to Stojan. He's over there.
Afterwards at the help desk.
And he would be happy to talk to you about it. It's aside from this conference, the performance happening of the year. Because when we look at our own data set, what is actually very interesting is that the most interactions actually happen after it's been completed. And this is why having real user monitoring is better than only looking at Lighthouse, because that won't show you the things that happened after it got completed. So just to recap, meet the core vitals, and this is INP. We would like every interaction to be below 200 milliseconds, preferably even faster. We already learned that 100 milliseconds would be even better because you can't feel that. But as we are both working from mobile and desktop combined here in INP, we like it to be at least below 200 milliseconds. Yeah, so, well, I mean, the Web Almanac has a great showcase,
Attention.
and we're actually doing it again. Because what is really interesting is that we see in the Web Almanac that the difference between mobile and desktop has improved massively over the last 2 years, which is great. However, there's still a 23% gap between mobile and desktop. So let's stop talking about us and start talking about you.
Yeah.
Who are you?
What kind of roles do we have today?
Yeah.
Mainly developers. All right. Other people? Anyone that wants to elaborate on other people? Other roles? No? Fully anonymous today? Fair enough. All right. Let's continue.
No, actually, let's.
Yeah?
I mean,
Okay.
we are here with 350 people. We can get this up. Come on.
No, but I think only about, well, this amount of people actually joined.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think we can say that the majority of people here today are developers, which is great because you guys are the one that actually can fix core web vitals. So you absolutely came to the right conference today. So what was your knowledge of INP before, well, attending today? Did you actually have you never heard of it? Have you heard of it? Have you looked at it? Have you worked with it? Have you improved it? Or, because this is a special room, have you basically invented it?
Could be the case today, apparently. Yeah. So we also have a quiz today, so maybe 8 people should not join the quiz,
Yeah.
as they have an advantage.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting data set.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for that. This is why I want field data. So, because I'm giving it to Erwin now, let's gear up.
Yes, all right. Well, here we go. The faster you answer, the more points you get, if the answer you gave is correct, obviously. And you should be able to pick a name, use the name of your pet, like yellow, or if you think you're going to be good today, then use your own name. And then maybe people from Google should use a prefix in Google, people from SpeechCurve, etc., so we can recognize them, like GC and SC or whatever.
And if you're not feeling confident, then use your competitor's name.
All right, 212 people ready. Okay, cool. Going to be fun. Here we go. 213, 14. Yeah, let's go. Start the quiz. Once again, the faster you answer, the more points you get.
As this is a performance community.
What matters for SEO? Is it Lighthouse score, core web vitals, page load time, or nothing? Well, some things matter for SEO, but from a page speed perspective. Okay. I'm not sure if I should elaborate on Lighthouse. It has been talked about before by Harry, for example. But yeah, you should focus on core web vitals as that matters for SEO, but also, obviously, for real users and eventually revenue as well, or conversion in whatever form. All right, next question. What has the biggest impact on INP? The faster you answer, the more points you get. What has the biggest impact on INP? Is it CSS, HTML, JavaScript, or my patience, or your patience? Let's find out. All right, I don't have to elaborate too much here. Just moving on, third question. Here we go.
Did we not already have this one?
What has the highest correlation with INP?
Oh, we
Is
did
it
not.
internet speed, someone's device, or user location? So User location could be correct, although indirectly I would say, because maybe people in other countries not as wealthy, where, well, yeah, people might not be as wealthy in, for example, the north of Europe, they might buy different devices. So it is an indirect factor, but eventually it is someone's device. What kind of devices do you have? No points to be given here, but...
It will be interesting because we keep talking about all of us having high-end devices, but is that actually true?
So this is basically illustrating that, well, it has been said before, yesterday, and maybe even today, that no one is using the same device, so everyone is browsing under different conditions.
Yeah, but it also illustrates an interesting fact, that congratulations to all iPhone users. You are not part of the Core Web Vitals dataset, and we cannot measure INP on you. You are therefore not representative.
Not in Crocs. No.
So if you want to improve your client's Core Web Vitals, my tip to you, buy a high-end Android phone. That will actually improve their Core Web Vitals if you use it often enough. But however, hey, you know, those low-end devices, actually maybe all of us should be testing on those, as has been made as a point many times today and yesterday. Because what do we see? We see that INP device memory has an incredible impact. You see that if you have 1 gigabyte or 2, your INP on the 75th percentile will be much, much worse than if you have an HCP device. So those people are really, truly suffering on INP, and we should help them.
This is a clear correlation, I would say.
Yeah. So let's get even more technical.
All right. Well, as shown before, users are doing multiple clicks or in interactions in general during the page life cycle, which is why FID came short. And it's not like, well, yeah, we don't know which one is resulting in most frustration. That's what INP is about and what INP is able to show us. If we're looking at a main thread, my wife likes to joke that men, for example, can only do one thing at a time.
You can't multitask.
So if I'm watching Netflix or playing a video game and she tries to communicate with me, then I first have to switch back, pause, and then processing what she has been saying. So I cannot join the conversation right away, for example. Or otherwise, if you're trying to take a picture of the slides and then the next question is coming up, then you first have to switch back to your browser to participate. That could be called the input delay before you can even participate. So that's as shown over here as well. First of all, this is basically the INP breakdown, the so-called subparts. So we've got the input delay phase, processing time, and then presentation delay, where whenever I try to interact with a web page, some other JavaScript or other tasks in general might still be running. So the browser cannot come back to the event handlers or to your click interaction. And that's also something to take into account. As a matter of fact, FID was only tracking the first part, only the input delay, while in reality there is happening way more. And that's why, as we could see in the sadness index, a lot of sites started to score worse once INP was introduced. You might figure, okay, could we then just delay all JavaScript and be done with it? Yes, you can, technically speaking. As a matter of fact, you might even get a better Lighthouse score, which you can then post online on LinkedIn and get a lot of likes, probably. But in reality, and as it's about real users, and as most interactions are happening after 10 seconds, maybe even after 20 seconds, you might only fool yourselves and stakeholders, while in reality, INP might still be happening. So always be sure to keep looking at the Core Web Vitals INP metric instead of, only using Lighthouse or synthetic testing in general. And over here we can see that looking at percentiles, again, data from Web Almanac, Well, you can easily see that once you go from the 75th to the 90th percentile, it is especially the input delay and the processing duration phases that are hit the most. Maybe Alex Russell would even say that the P90 is caused by React, but we can certainly see that that's where most challenges are. Another question. 4 out of 6 questions actually. All right, I think we actually had about this amount of people maybe? No, 214, I think. So maybe
Some people got scared
40
after the
people,
SEO.
yeah, dropped out already. So I'm going to continue. Once again, the faster you answer, the more points you get, if it is correct. Which lighthouse metric is closest to INP? So if you cannot measure INP, which lighthouse metric is closest? Time to first byte, time to interactive, or total blocking time? All right. Maybe 13 people are at the wrong conference or should have a chat afterwards with us, as we will be at the help desk later on. But it is total blocking time. As a matter of fact, although most people voted time to interactive, it isn't even part of the Lighthouse interface anymore. It's still part of Lighthouse under the hood, but not part of the UI anymore. Even if you would go to web.dev, you would see it has been changed recently. You would see
Thanks, Jordi, by the way, and Barry.
You would see that Google is stating over there as well that you should focus on INP over time, total blocking time. A lot of things has happened, changed, improved, as a matter of fact, because yes, the performance panel has been overwhelming and will certainly still be overwhelming when opening DevTools for the first time. But this has made my life, and probably the life of many performance consultants, easier. Whisker certainly did. The new performance panel that Jack talked about as well. Schedule yield, for example, that was being introduced, and I think Jeremy is going to talk about schedule yield during the live demo later on. But also the introduction of LOAF, and although LOAF isn't directly part of the performance panel, it does make our lives easier, especially, once again, when tracked in the field.
Because actually, talking to many of you the last year, and Erwin as well, when we were in 2023, INP was hard. Debugging INP was hard. So if your site had good INP, then, you know, all was fine, no issues at all. But if it wasn't, what kind of tools and solutions did you really have to help you? And these four things actually improved our lives by a lot. And actually, they're all Google solutions. And I really want to give a shout out to the Google team to give us this.
I see one question mark. So maybe I should elaborate a little bit on this, but what you're able to see when using the LOAF API is you can see an array of scripts where, well, indicating basically which scripts or tasks were blocking the main thread for what duration. And it's only anything that is running for more than 5 seconds that is being reported by the LOAF API, but that's already valuable information, as we can see, the exact line number, function name, although often obfuscated in real life, so it's not really usable. But the source URL is, as we can now, well, you could say point fingers, maybe. And if we dive into the invoker types, we can see that, based on our data, at least from Vision data, 88% of INP issues are coming from, well, interactions. And they do result in the best INP score. So the other invoker types typically result in higher INP scores. But this does explain and illustrate that it's not only third parties that were running during the interaction, it might also be caused by maybe first-party JavaScript responsible for event listeners and coming back with feedback once an interaction happened. Just to showcase, illustrate what each invoker type is, although I did not include all of them, but this is what you have to think about when talking about event listener, user callback, and, for example, classic scripts. Another question, almost last one, 5 out of 6. All right, I'm going to continue. Here we go. The faster you answer, the more points you get. Which category of scripts has the greatest impact on INP, the biggest impact on INP? Is it advertising, consent providers, RAM scripts, social pixels, user behavior, or other third parties? I did not even mention Google Tag Manager. But it is, yes, user behavior.
Well, it's actually not advertising, I think we should say.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. But we'll come back to that later on. Because we've got the sixth and last question of today. Maybe a trick question, so, or not. All right, more people joined, so I'm going to continue. Who was the first and last Dutch speaker at Performance.now? Was it Max, Jos, or Bas? A lot of people are quick to vote. So it is Bas. Bas Schouten talked last year at Performance.now. But the interesting part is of this data, either you are Bas, or you know Bas, or you know Max and Jos Verstappen, and know that they did not talk at Performance.now. But we don't have that kind of data. So we don't have additional data to prove and say and segment what is happening here. Basically, we are missing attribution. And that is what LOAF is giving us as well. It is giving us way more data to digest and to segment and to draw solid conclusions, for example. As a matter of fact, based on our data that we collected with, as part of RAM Vision, I initially called this our Git blame, but I wasn't allowed by my CEO and boss and wife to do so. But this data is basically showing what is blocking the main thread during an interaction. So I could try and chase all third parties on my web page in synthetic data, for example, while in reality some third parties might never really be a bottleneck. And obviously I only, as a performance consultant, I only want to spend time on those that are actively blocking the main thread during an interaction. And that's what this data is showing. And we can see that Google Tag Manager in reality is not really the biggest issue. Even Facebook Pixel is not the biggest issue. This is recent data, by the way. On mobile, P75 mobile data. All screenshots are P75 mobile data. While we are able to see that Bugsnack or Heatmap or Hotjar might not be the best third parties out there to use on your website or use with care. While the data is also showing that some cookie notices might not be the best pick, Consent Manager, for example, while other cookie notices are doing way better. And with this data, we can show site owners, if they see that some third party is causing issues, and they click on their own Consent Manager platform, they can basically compare their solution with other CMPs to be able to tell that the CMP that they picked might not be the best pick, and maybe they should move to, I think it was Accept.io, and there was another one, Cookie Yes, which aren't blocking the main thread for that long during a user interaction.
So Jason, to get back to your talk yesterday, we actually have good news. We can do this.
Apparently Google Chrome already heard your
They heard your cry for help, and they provide it. And we can visualize it for you.
All right, let's move on to some INP cases. Talking about long animation frame, Google introduced it, it was last year as an origin trial, and Taboola was one of the first, well, maybe you want to explain?
Yeah, Taboola was actually one of the first public use cases that was available based on the LOAF API. Taboola is a content recommendation provider, and what they were struggling with was that total blocking time actually wasn't as valuable to debug their issues. It had limitations. And then they tried the LOAF origin trial, and that got them really good insights. And based on those insights on the animation frames and on which issues were actually harming the user's experience, they improved. And they improved a lot, because that's the fun thing about being a ROM. We actually have the data to show that that improvement was in fact 88.3% that they we're taking less JavaScript to get in the way. That's from the last year. Our data shows actually a 54. This also really trips me up in English. 45%, no, darn it, 54% for 2023 December to 2024 example improvement. And if you want to know how they did it, they actually wrote a great case study of it that I would recommend you looking at, because this is really the first showcase that we had for LOAF that showed its value to developers, as you all are, to get better insights to improve interactivity. So here's the second one with Guru, who is a Shopify merchant. This was actually the first one that we spotted when we started to take place in the origin trial of Google as well. They asked us, as we were already collecting INP and were running on the Web Vitals library, and so could quite easily fit it in our tech stack. So what did we see? Well, we saw this really weird thing happening, and we looked into it, and we saw that it was Moment.js that was still around. So, you know, that wasn't good. So we reached out to them, and they were like, hey, Big Sur AI, we know you're having a moment here. AI is big now, but could you maybe remove Moment.js? And they did so, because they weren't even using it.
We actually ended up asking them to, advising them to replace moment.js. And when we looked afterwards, once INP improved, we figured, okay, maybe they did replace it. We were surprised how fast they did, by the way. And then we looked into the source code, and there was no date formatting library to be found anymore. So apparently, it wasn't even actively used, basically, as Alex Russell talked about yesterday as well.
Yeah, so what do we learn from this? Well, regularly check your dependencies. But there's another interesting learning that I would like you all to keep in mind when improving INP. INP is not a magical solution. Even though this win was really great, as we can see from the data set from moment there to there, this third party wasn't in the way anymore to users' experience. That does not mean that on origin, all issues in INP were resolved. It actually was only a 2-millisecond win, because INP is many interaction in a page. So you might think that you have improved your slowest INP, and you probably have, but what happens then? Well, your life is not easier, no. You get a new slowest INP. So INP is quite a process, and probably will take many times to improve small things or larger things. But just, you know, don't get frustrated. It's part of the process. But hey, when you're wondering whether you actually are running deprecated JavaScript, Lighthouse actually has a really good check on this, and I would recommend looking at it. Look, I don't hate Lighthouse completely. There are absolutely values to it, and this is really one of them. Check your dependencies and see if you can update them or remove them when you're not using it.
Which is, I would say, also the power of LOAF, because I would say this was the responsibility of the third-party supplier to do so, to check in Lighthouse. The website owner that is just installing a third party isn't really going to do that, and also thinks, I cannot fix this because it's a third party. And that's where LOAF data comes in as well. It is able to really, once again, get blame a specific third party. All right. Another case, the online drogist, a Dutch pharmacist, you could say, online pharmacist, the biggest one, if I'm correct. And we only did two things, and it's only one, I guess, that really improved INP, but I still want to elaborate on the other one as well. We only did two things and saw INP improving. One of them was CPU versus GPU animation, where we basically ended up offloading the animation to the GPU, so that it was not happening on the main thread anymore, and as a result, not blocking the main thread, meaning that other JavaScript could run at that very moment, for example. And it only involved these two changes. So we basically, well, they used a probably third-party supplier for image gallery, and they were using the left property, which we changed to transform. And luckily, you still have a lot of freedom and flexibility when using transform. You can use skew, scale, rotate, and translate to move pixels to the side using the GPU. So that was a technical win. Unfortunately, they deployed these two wins at the same time, well, with the knowledge of a performance consultant, I'm able to say that the wins especially came from this, because they just added event listeners to a lot of well, interactions on the webpage using Google Tag Manager. So as a result, obviously, if you try to click on something, even the next slide of an image, I don't know why people and merchants want to track how often people are sliding to the next image. But they did. They ended up tracking that as well, meaning that whenever I try to click, and I did not elaborate this over here, but I did so in the next slide, we can see a lot of event sending activity caused by Google Tag Manager. And we wanted to get that out of the way, because we can also see the whiskers and basically my interaction with input delay, processing time, presentation delay, and only at the end of the presentation delay over there is when the next frame is presented. So that's where the visual feedback came in for an actual user, which we want to improve, because that's what non-technical people well, are basically focusing on. This is what we ended up doing. In short, there's a link to be found, but once again, you will find that afterwards as well in the resource that we're sharing. But we basically ended up yielding, again, Jeremy will be talking about scalability yield as well. We ended up yielding those events to get them, well, basically away from the main thread, or basically deferring them until after the next frame was presented. So that resulted in the next scenario. Unfortunately, we can still see some Google Tag Manager activity outlined in red. We were not able to get rid of that, but the main blocks outlined in blue, we were able to defer them until after the presentation delay. And this is still a shame, this scenario, although it already resulted in an improvement, 53% improvement. What I outlined in green is the only part of JavaScript that was really necessary. That actually called the slide function, causing the next image to appear in the product gallery, image gallery. So I would say this is still way too much JavaScript on the main thread, but at least it was already a win, as we were able to defer big blocks of those event sending activity.
And always celebrate wins, guys. Don't forget about that.
It was a real win. Yeah, absolutely. I could have been doing better than using Paint over here. I only learned about annotations today. So that would have been cool if I would have used that in my previous slide, but as we can see at the date, it was only published recently. So the INP gains 12% win at mobile P75, but we actually saw an improvement, well, basically from P47, I think, P46, up until P97, having a win of 8%. So that means that a large portion of people, 51% of all visitors, page hits, actually well, had an improvement, benefited from this change. All right, and also other events as well, clicking on the CMP, clicking on accept cookies or whatever, the add to cart button, etc., etc.
So yeah, so let's get back to third parties. This is actually a really cool book, and I would recommend that you read this, but I am going to slide through it. Because third parties, as we all know, can be a huge bottleneck in INP. We saw the data, we saw the benchmark, but does that mean that there are no wins to be had when dealing with third parties? No, there actually can be improvements. And this was a fun one. So we were trying to improve this merchant's site, and we were looking at the data, and we saw this really weird script that was taking forever. That's almost 4 seconds for a single script. And we actually couldn't figure out what that script was doing. So we asked, what if we would remove it? Well, they did, and it proved almost 77%, and the INP dropped to 260 milliseconds, which, as you can see, is a huge win. And then just by knowing what that script was, actually, we never figured out what that script was. But by removing a script that we weren't too sure what was doing anything, we had that win. So the learning here is keep an eye out on scripts. Check it in your performance panel, or better yet, your ROM, and know what you're running and why you're running it. And if you're not sure why you're running it, and your marketing team is not sure why you're running it, then remove it.
Well, start asking questions first. This client just removed it. Yeah,
or remove it and see if they call you to complain they're missing data. Because we asked the merchant, hey, did you ever figure out what that was? And he said, no idea. Some absolute crap, though. We just removed it. It wasn't even working properly.
This is a 100% quote. We did not add any words here. This was the response of the client when we asked what that obfuscated script was actually doing.
Yeah. So know what's running and remove it if no one's sure in your organization. You can always get it back if it turns out it was important, but in many cases, it probably wasn't. So here's another one. This is one we probably all suffer from. Marketing and CRO wants to run Hotjar because it can get you valuable insights. I agree. However, we saw this huge worsening in user experience by almost 50%. When Hotjar, the Hotjar was running 50%, you're right. I'm sorry. It was even much worse. I think this is almost 500%. But they set the sampling rate to 50%. Now, I'm going to ask you, who wants to look at 50% of playbacks of users? Who has time for that?
To do so.
I don't. I like to look at some of them. I don't have to look at all of them. And I think actually your CRO team would probably agree with you that they have better things to do. So we asked them, hey, guys, could we maybe reduce it so you still get the insights, but our performance actually doesn't get screwed up as well? And they did. They reduced it to 10%. And what you see here is that at least we see that while there's still a price to pay, the price is less high than it was. And there's actually another interesting win to be had here for running very heavy scripts, especially ones like Hotjar. We can consider a device memory condition. So if they're actually running on 4 GB or worse yet on 2 GB devices, then don't include them on Hotjar. Or with a very low sampling rate, at least, if you really want to know what they're doing. But I'd say just don't, because your users do not want to ask. They're not asking to be part of your experiment, so keep them out of it.
All right, I'm going to speed up a bit. Again, data from Web Almanac, although based on our Run Vision data, confirming that it is, in fact, user behavior that is often resulting in the most INPs and the highest INPs. We can see a distribution bar as well, confirming that. We've got another case, Huva case, where we implement, well, not we, as a matter of fact, Huva came up with a implementation for speculation rules, and it also led to an improvement of INP. I've also seen some cases where INP regressed when in, well, very specific scenarios, but I did not have very good data to back that up, so I didn't publish that in my slides. But this case did see an improvement after implementing pre-rendering and comparing that with the baseline. And the baseline would have been worse without pre-rendering, obviously, so the win of 27% is actually a bit more. And we can also see a win from back-forward cache, which is also, I think, demonstrated later on. No, the speculation rules is demonstrated later on. But the back-forward cache also makes sense, as discussed yesterday, as basically the same state of previous page is being reloaded, and then, well, not reloaded, obviously, but clearly showing a win as well compared to back-forward attempts that did not came from cache. And loop earplugs, the biggest win, because this is a Shopify merchant, and it was a third party, a Shopify extension that was improved, as Matthäus started asking questions after analyzing a Shopify site, and this resulted in a big win, because before, whenever interacting with the Pendectest GDPR cookie banner, its own INP value was 786, and its pure JavaScript time, which contributes to the whole INP, was also 464 milliseconds. Matthäus reached out, and we saw a clear win for event listener invoker types. So when users click on something, we saw a clear win overall of 22.8%, meaning all Shopify sites now have the potential to improve big time because of this one change within a Shopify extension.
So also, third parties are subtle to change if you just tell them and are in fact important enough. Remember that. Find the important people.
I think we both clicked at the same time, maybe?
We crashed the
Did
system.
We? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, well, that's too bad for us. Yeah, all right. Giving it back to you now.
Yep. All right.
Oh no! And this is what happens when you introduce interactivity to unknown conditions.
All right, let's try this way, the old school way. And this was, well, we also saw a clear win within the processing time specifically. I'm not going to elaborate on this because we've also got an article explaining this, but this is typically my working flow, you could say, a flow chart of how I address and look into our RUM data to then dive into DevTools, where RUM data, especially LOAF data, is telling me how to reproduce a situation.
So
the flowchart itself is also published online already.
yeah, so going forward, what did we find out? Well, that my clicker is not working anymore.
Okay.
It's back. All right. So actually, third parties have been improving. They are actually listening and trying to improve, and having better instruments like INP is helping them because it makes them see what is happening. And most third parties actually don't want to screw up your performance, especially if you're gonna get mad at them. So browsers have also been improving. And actually, the INP and the Web Vitals got fine-tuned over
Even
this
Google
last year.
published a tag, made a change, and introduced a yielding option as well.
Yeah, so all of us are improving. Actually, if we want to improve even more, then sign up for this proposal for async and event listeners, and we might be able to improve things even further. Because everyone will benefit if we improve INP. I think we can all say now, after a year, INP has value. Platforms improved, merchant got better conversions and happier users, RUM providers got better insights to give to you, the developers, to debug INP, and your visitors, the most important of them, will all benefit. However, do you know that we ask you about your phones? Well, that's an issue. We are lacking almost, I think it was 60% of your experiences, and we would like that to be more. So please give Ryan's proposal to get Core Web Vitals in all browsers supported a thumbs up, as that would be amazing, and I would love to be here back next year and say, look, Safari has INP issues as well. So to have the key insights, real user monitoring actually gets you much better insights than simply running a lighthouse test will do. Know your audience and restraints when you're making decisions on what you can run in terms of JavaScript and third parties. Keep challenging marketing and user behavior tags. Either get them out of the way, yield them, or get mad at them and see if they can improve. INP is already very valuable when combining attribution, and third-party benchmarking is actually available to us, and you can even do it yourself. when combining INP with LOAF. And then we can all increase user happiness. So who won?
Slightly off, okay.
Who is that?
I think that's Alex Russell. Take a picture, maybe.
Yeah, bragging rights, LinkedIn,
Yeah.
happy moments, and actually, where is the Rummy Cup? So come get your prize. No? No?
Later on,
Yeah? It's suitable for the family?
family friendly, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, that wraps us up today. So we would all like to thank you for attending, and we get that you all want lunch now. So if you have any questions, we are actually at the help desk. Please ask us anything you want. If you want to check the slides again, or just go here, and they are all available, including
Not
the
yet, I will
resources.
publish them in a few minutes.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
he has a bit of an input delay on that one. And if we can do anything else for you, like provide you with a RUM Vision demo, then just let us know, because both me, Erwin, and Jordi and Max are available all day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Erwin and Karlijn, we have time for maybe just one quick question.
Yep.
If you want to come have a seat with me. Okay. First of all, I do not think it's fair that Alex Russell won. I'm just being a sore loser. So someone had a clarifying question. So one of question 4 out of the 6. One of the choices, was like advertising, marketing, third-party cookie sent. The winning choice was user interaction scripts.
User behavior.
Or
yeah.
user behavior scripts.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on what that means a little bit more? Because I think for a lot of us that was maybe a surprising.
Okay. Well, it's typically a heat map solution or a Hotjar that is typically tracking user behavior, link clicks, the position of the mouse, etc. Mouse tracking, maybe. Yeah, I think that's the best summary.
Okay, thank you. And just one final question. So you shared a lot of really great case studies, a lot of options for how to improve INP. If folks are going to go back to their job and on Monday and they want to work towards this, like what is the first most important thing that they should do?
I would summarize it by
Get a
saying,
RUM.
yeah, well, and start using LOAF, long animation frames.
Use RUM with LOAF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to both of you.
All right.
That was fantastic and a lot of fun.
Thank you.